When the Uber CEO says he'd love to have Teslas on the platform, stop and ask yourself, does Tesla need Uber or does Uber need Tesla? Tesla owns a self-driving AI, 9 billion miles of training data. Tesla owns a Cybercab, a purpose-built robotaxi entering production this month. Tesla's building its own ride-hailing network. Tesla has its own payment infrastructure coming with X money. And Tesla's already hiring for robotaxi operations in 18 cities. Just a few days ago, Uber CEO was being interviewed, and of course, they continue to bring up Tesla. I'll play that video, but let's get started with this image that you provided. It looks like an orchestra conductor. What's this about?
Yeah, this is the best way I think that I can succinctly describe what's going on here, is that Uber eventually will be like this conductor who won't be needed. The orchestra will conduct itself. And I think that's what's going to happen to Uber.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you put together actually 2 articles, pretty long articles explaining Uber's Achilles heel. So part 1 wasn't enough. You came back for more. And by looking at your main thesis here, I'm assuming this is what you mean. Uber wins in a world of fragmented human supply, which they have. Uber loses in a world of consolidated autonomous supply. This is their slide that they like to share because they look like they want to be the largest facilitator. Is that their own words? Yeah, we intend to be the largest facilitator of AV trips, autonomous vehicle trips in the world by 2029. They've got cities that they're partnering with, upcoming cities. They've got 20 partners, hardware platforms, self-driving technology, fleet management. It looks like they'll partner with anybody that has a pulse.
Yes, except there's one key partner that's not on here that doesn't want to be their partner, and that's Tesla. And so it's forced them now to try to partner with everybody and anybody else in an attempt to remain useful. Uber serves in a very important role right now. They are aggregating demand and they're aggregating supply from all these Uber drivers that have their own vehicle. Uber sits in the middle of all that, orchestrating again this orchestra. And so in a world where humans drive vehicles, that is a very important role, and it was very necessary. There is no single Uber driver that could develop their own app and have that work. This method that Uber created, this way of having this rideshare and this massive network, they did a great job at that. The problem that they have now is the world will be shifting away from them. And we're going to go away from this sort of fragmented supply to a very much so a supply of autonomous vehicles that's owned by just a few companies. And that changes the economics of this industry in so many different ways. And unfortunately leaves, I think, Uber out. Again, they want to be the conductor of the orchestra, but the orchestra will self-conduct.
That's your main thesis, but you actually have, I don't know, I can't count anymore, 10 plus different miscalculations on their strategy. We'll take a look at that closely because when they explain their strategy to anybody he's always interviewed, and I'll play that now, he sounds very confident. They sound pretty logical. And so I'd like to break it down with you to truly understand what are they missing here? Because there are a group of investors out there who say autonomous technology, just like any technology, is going to be commoditized. And if it's commoditized, hey, then there's going to be many players. And if there's many players, you need an orchestra agent like this. He came, I think, from Expedia, and he often brings up that example. Expedia, everybody thought that people go direct to the airlines and hotels, and that's not the case. You need an Expedia, he said. So let's play what he's always asked about Tesla every time he's on stage.
And by 2029, we think that we will facilitate more autonomous and robotaxi rides than anyone else in the world.
Mason, do you ever think Elon would come on platform, or is he just, I'm doing it all on my own? He doesn't play well with others usually.
I think Elon's approach typically has been a vertical approach, right? Yeah. They even own their own refinery. Again, when the day comes when those Teslas are safe with a camera-only approach, we'd love to have those Teslas on our platform as well. We've got tens of thousands of Teslas on our platform now. And some of our drivers use FSD.
Sure.
So we've got a lot of data. It's a great car. It's a safe car. We'd love to work with them. As to whether we will or will not is TBD. But there are plenty of other partners in the space. And we think there are going to be many winners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he said that there's already tens of thousands of Teslas on the network, that's because the Uber drivers themselves have bought the Teslas. But also, Uber actually finances some of these Teslas themselves. So it's not like I always just say, why don't they just buy these Teslas and then they're good? What's your thought on what he said?
If Uber is able to buy Teslas, then they become a fleet operator, and that's different than what they're doing now. That's a completely different business. And that may be what happens. That may be how Uber survives, is to ditch what they're doing now and become a massive fleet operator. There'll be other companies looking to do that as well. And that is, to me, the off-ramp that they have. But if they're going to continue down this path that they're on now, I think they're going to quickly find that they're going to be increasingly shut out. If they are successful with any of their partners, let's say, for example, Waymo. Waymo looks at the economics of this, and ideally, Waymo does not want to have to share any of the revenue with Uber. And so over time, Waymo itself would be looking to separate itself from Uber as well. So he's talking a good game. He's saying the right things. But I think when you actually look at it and understand what's going to happen here, it becomes pretty apparent to me that Uber will not have a seat at this table. This is a completely different business model than what they're in now.
Yeah, you'll walk us through your the miscalculations that they've made, but just quickly, when you just said this, I would say that if it ends up becoming 20 plus different players and they're all fairly about equal size, he will win. He's got a place maybe. But if it turns out to be like 5 major players and each of the 4 of the 5 are all pretty big, significant sized market share, they'll just do it on their own. I don't understand his need. Okay, but we'll go through that. Yep. Let's start off with, you wanted to share this. What was this?
This is from Uber's February 4th document on their autonomous vehicle plans. And it says here, 1 year ago, we laid out our perspective on the future of autonomous vehicles around the world. We said, while the technology was advancing quickly, we expected commercialization to take much longer. So this is actually in their interest if things get stretched out for a period of time. This is because of what we call the go-to-market puzzle. To deploy widely, AVs will need a consistently superhuman safety record and enabling regulation. So certainly, yes, that's an issue. A cost-effective scaled hardware platform. That's an issue with everybody except for Tesla. Excellent on-the-ground operations. That can be put in place. And a high utilization network that can manage variable demand with flexible supply. So they are talking up the things, again, that they're used to, that they're supplying now for this rideshare market. And so this document goes through and highlights some of the things that they're talking about and makes the case for why Uber should be a partner here. Again, as I read this, I'm highly skeptical. I think that things are going to play out quite differently than what they're talking about here. Yes, it may take some time, but once the safety issues are ironed out, then there's nothing stopping the autonomous vehicle industry from scaling like we've never seen anything scale before. It's one of those things that's slowly at first and then all of a sudden. So Uber is saying this could take a decade or more. Perhaps it takes that long for the safety issues and everything to be ironed out. I doubt it, but perhaps. But at some point, you just don't need this middleman that Uber is positioning itself to be. Here's Uber's business model. So let's anchor ourselves on this. This is where they're at today. They did, in the fourth quarter, $14.4 billion in revenue. $8.2 billion of that was what we think of as Uber, the service, the mobility service. And that has margins of about 27%. And then Uber Eats is also a pretty significant chunk, about $5 billion in revenue in the quarter, and that's got a margin of about 21%, gross margin of 21%. And they're getting into the freight business, which is also a kind of a highly fragmented market. And right now they're not making any money there. Okay. Now, their revenue is a fraction of the total amount of money going through the platform. So you can see the third little black box, gross bookings. They did $54 billion in gross bookings. So the revenue they report is their share of that. What's the difference? So the difference is the money that they pay the drivers. So $40 billion of the 54 goes to the drivers. Okay. The gross bookings number is the number that you and I pay as the customer. We're paying the 54 billion in revenue that's coming out of the customer's pocket, and 40 billion of that is going to the drivers. So imagine how the business model looks then when you have an autonomous fleet and you don't have the driver's costs. And then where does Uber get the vehicles from then? They don't have their own fleets. They don't make the cars. So you can see that suddenly this is this middleman sitting here saying, okay, we were directing all this traffic, but you know what? The traffic's self-directing itself. We're not needed anymore. If you go through the rest of Uber's business model, the net effect is a profit margin there of $300 million on revenue of 14. Now there was other expense, so maybe operating profit normally of a couple billion per quarter is something you should expect. So a net margin of 10 to 12%. So this is not unlike the automobile
Hmm.
business, pretty low margin
Low
business.
margin. I'm shocked. Very shocked because, like I just said, they don't own anything. They're supposed to be just an app. And yet, why is their profit not as high, 80%, 70% of their revenue?
Yeah.
Hmm. Operating
So
expenses.
this is an expensive, to be the conductor of this orchestra is expensive. It's not, they're
Mhm.
not sitting high on their perch earning crazy amount of money.
What is cost of revenue?
It's the cost of, for them to generate all the revenue that they get to keep. I'm not entirely sure of what goes into this. I'm not an Uber analyst. I don't follow this company that closely, so I don't know specifically what's in that bucket for them that's so big. But it's the systems and the people in place that they need to generate that revenue. And then on top of that, they've got all the corporate overhead in the operating expense line,
Okay.
as well as some other things. But so yeah, just business model as it stands today is not that outstanding, and there's some serious cost to it.